हर तरफ चलता गुणगान रहे, बरसे असीम कृपा ईश्वर की, आपकी जिंदगी में हमेशा मुस्कान रहे. Ladies and gentlemen, Institute of Valuers, IOV, Registered Valuers Foundation, in association with IBBI, presenting Global Valuation Summit 2023. This is Serene Sarkar and would like to welcome all you fine ladies and gentlemen to this amazing two-day summit. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, I'm going to be presenting these 2 days summit, so you have to tolerate me with whatever I'm going to be delivering here. Thank you, and once again, would like to take the opportunity to welcome you all fine people to this Global Valuation Summit 2023, of course, the financial capital of India, Mumbai. IOV, the Institute of Valuers, is celebrating its 54th year of formation, and this seminar is the second in the series of Global Valuation Summit, organized in the financial capital of India, which is called Mumbai, also known as Maya Nagari. Of course, the vibe of this city is completely different, evergreen, and as vibrant as all the fine people and valuers sitting out here. First one was organized in the year 2019 in New Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. IOV is partnering with IOV, RVF, IBBI, and IVSC, the International Valuation Standards Council. And of course, the theme of this seminar is Mapping the Momentum and Global Outreach of Valuation Profession. We have participation from more than 9 countries and delegates of more than 600 across India. The summit is a special occasion to meet the first generation of valuers who are practitioners for more than 5 decades, and also the torchbearer of valuation profession. We welcome all the chairmans and secretary of 52 branches of IOV for the seminar. Can we have a big round of applause, please? And it is absolutely a privilege to invite our distinguished dignitaries to be on the dais. I would now like to invite VR PK Tyagarajan, the President, IOV. He has around 30 years of experience of sugar industry in India and African countries, along with special electrode manufacturing. He has been awarded with Lifetime Achievement Award 2013 by Rotary Club. He has presented technical papers on valuation of sugar industries 2009, and valuation Hong Kong, Singapore, Beijing, and India, etc. He is also a member of delegate for technical discussion of Germany and Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you none other than VR PK Tyagarajan. Can we have a big round of applause? And when I had seen him in 2019, he was as young as he is looking like. I really don't know what exactly goes on with the valuers. They remain the same. Thank you, sir. Please be seated. Thank you. All right. Now it is absolutely a privilege and a pleasure to invite Mr. Sachinder Binder, the MD and CEO, Awas Financiers Limited. The Managing Director and CEO of Awas Financiers brings over 25 years of extensive experience in various leadership roles within renowned institutions such as Kotak Mahindra Bank, ICICI Lombard, GIC, Standard Chartered, and HDFC Limited. He is an engineer MBA and is a MRI CS member. His expertise spans from P&L management, business development, partnership, compliance, and governance. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Mr. Binder. Can we have a big round of applause? I really want to say, Paji, तुसी कैसे हो? But Paji कौन कहता है? I don't have any brother. Thank you so much. And thank you very much, sir. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you all are set for our next dignitary in the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, inviting Dr. Anil Kashyap, the first president and chancellor NICMAR University. He is the first president and chancellor of NICMAR University, Pune and Hyderabad. He has 30 years of experience in practice, academic, and research, both in India and abroad. Dr. Kashyap has published over 100 papers in peer-reviewed journals, international and national conferences till date. Of course, Dr. Kashyap holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering with distinction from NIT Kurukshetra, master's in urban planning from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, and of course, PhD from University of Ulster, United Kingdom. You know, I had taken at least 5 minutes to said whatever he has done in his entire life. He's looking so young. When did he finish all these things? I really don't know. Thank you very much, sir, for being a part of this prestigious summit, and thank you very much for your gracious present. Presenting to you, Dr. Kashyap, ladies and gentlemen. I would now like to invite Shri B. Sankar, Deputy Managing Director, State Bank of India, SARG. The Deputy Managing Director, Stress Assets Resolution Group, State Bank of India, Shri B. Shankar, with a brilliant career span of more than 35 years and a rich experience in banking operations, have been instrumental in achieving many milestones. He joined State Bank of India in the year 1988 as a probationary officer and gradually climbed up the corporate ladder to hold the position of Assistant General Manager in Stressed Assets Management. He worked as Regional Manager and followed by DGM at Nagpur Zonal Office. As CGM, he also headed the Small and Medium Enterprises and SCF sector Mumbai till 2021 June, until he became the Deputy Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer in the year 2022 in the month of July. Can we have a big round of applause? Thank you very much, sir, for gracing this amazing summit. And I do definitely have a very personal connection with SBI. Whatever you're seeing me today because of the SBI, because my father also was an employee of SBI. So thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Mr. R. Arunachalam, the President Institute of Actuaries of India. He has worked as an appointed actuary for General Insurance Company in India for 7 years and as a signing actuary for a reassurance branch. His expertise lies in areas like life insurance, general insurance, pensions, in employees' benefits, investments, consulting, and technology. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to present to you none other than Mr. R. Arunachalam. Please put your hands together. It is my privilege now to present to you and invite in the dais Mr. Nilkant Mishra, the Chairperson, Unique Identification Authority of India, the Chief Economist of Axis Bank, also holds the position of Head of Global Research, along with being a whole-time Director of Axis Capital. Mr. Nilkant's contribution extend beyond his professional achievements. With being a part-time member of the Indian Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council and holding a position of the advisory board of the India Semiconductor Mission. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Mr. Mishra. Can we have a big round of applause? And of course, now my favorite, I would like to now invite on stage Mr. Vinay Goyal, the Honorary General Secretary, IOV, and MD of CEO of IOV RVF. Let me tell you, I have been knowing him for a long, long time. And just in the backstage today in the morning, he said, looking gorgeous. You know how valuers are. They value everywhere, you know. And trust me, the moment he said that, my value actually had gone up. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Vinay Goyal is a competent professional with more than 40 years of rich and extensive experience of working in architectural projects, along with contributing in the development of valuation profession. He took over the reins of the most prestigious institution of valuers from his father, Shri late P.C. Goyal, founder of IOV, as the Honorary General Secretary in the last decade. In an attempt to bring the valuation field under regulatory framework, he also formed a registered valuers organization under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, that is IBBI, named IOV Registered Valuers Foundation. Please put your hands together for none other than the very popular Mr. Vinay Goyal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I believe valuers always adding values to our lives. So, तालियों में कंजूसी बिल्कुल नहीं चाहिए मुझे. Can we have a big, big round of applause, please? Thank you so much. I know you're making the difference every single day to every people's life, and of course to your lives too. I want to see that energy today here. I know there's a lot of technical session. There will be a lot of question answers. There will be a lot of information sharing, insights. But at the same time, I want your energy to be absolutely at par and high, because more energy, more learning, and more takeaways. And of course, more business. Matlab rokda. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, of course, moving on to our next dignitary in the dais. It is absolutely a privilege and pleasure to present to you none other than VRS Jaden, the Chairman, IOV Mumbai branch. Mr. Jaden is the founder of VS Jaden and Co-Valuers LLP. He is a registered valuer for plant and machinery and land and building under Section 34AB of Wealth Tax Act and also under Section 247 of Companies Act with IBBI. This act seemed like we're going to be having an FIR against a husband. But, this is like in too much. All right. Oh, yes. And also he is a registered valuer for immovable properties under Section 34AB Wealth Tax Act. Thank God that Wealth Tax Act is there at the back. Otherwise, the sections are really confusing. Based out of Mumbai, he has been in valuation field since 1993, ladies and gentlemen, almost 2 decades, more than that actually. And of course, he is been associated with valuation assignments of manufacturing concerns across various sectors, ports and harbors, real estate projects, large land parcels, commercial and residential real estate high value road projects, information technology assets, offshore installations, floating crafts, construction equipment, etc. So ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you, VR Jaden. Can we have a big round of applause, please? Thank you, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to be inviting the last but not the least dignitary to be gracing our dais, none other than Mr. Nick Talbot, IVSC, the CEO, worked in various senior clients facing internal roles at EY and KPMG between 1998 and 2011. Before joining the professional body RICS as a director with global responsibilities. Since joining IVFC, Nick has overseen the introduction of technical standards boards of all valuation asset classes and led engagement with a range of stockholders, including regulatory leaders, minister, valuation providers, and professional body CEOs, as well as valuation leaders from many of the largest investors in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Mr. Nick Talbot. Can we have a big round of applause for all the dignitaries on the dais, please? कहते हैं कोई भी शुभ कार्य शुभारंभ से पहले हम एक बार भगवान जी के सामने जरूर मत्था टेकते हैं. So ladies and gentlemen, it is the time to, of course, light of the lamp and, of course, remembering all our almighties that, stays right inside us and give us all the strength to go in life, move forward, and win the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I would request all our distinguished dignitaries in the dais to please come forward for the lighting of the lamp. Seats, please. Thank you very much. And I would request all our dignitaries to please take their seats in the dais. Shubham karoti kalyanam, arogyam dhana sampada, shatru buddhi vinashaya, deepa jyoti namastute, deepa jyoti namastute. Salutation to the light of the lamp, which brings success and prosperity to each and everyone's life. And of course, that destroys the inimical feeling that we have inside. So ladies and gentlemen, all the dignitaries, the chairmen, honorary and general secretaries, and all the participants and valuers, I would like to wish from the bottom of my heart, and of course from IOV and the Global Valuation Summit, wish all the very best and all the success and prosperity and joy to bring in your life. Now let us start this formal inaugural ceremony. And of course, to start with, we would like to invite VR PK Tyagarajan, the President IOV, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you very much for everything. Good morning. Namaskar. Vandanam. Welcome, esteemed guests, council members of IOV and IOV RVF, faculty members, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, press and media. I welcome all of you in this inaugural session and then for follow-up for 2 days. Again, I welcome to the second Global Valuation Summit in the dynamic city of Mumbai. As we celebrate the 54th Indian Values Congress, envision a race among the gods, echoing the challenges we navigate in our professional lives. Today, we gather not just for an event, but for a shared journey into the heart of the valuation excellence. Join me in exploring the wisdom of Lord Ganesha and ancient scriptures, a fitting prelude to a day of collaboration on learning. There is a familiar tale about Lord Ganesha that we have all heard. When challenged to encircle the earth in the quickest time possible, a race and competition ensued among all the gods. Lord Ganesha ingeniously completed the task by circling his parents and declared, "I have finished my race." This prompted a question. How did you figure it out? Why did you believe this was the earth? Lord Ganesha, acknowledging the wisdom imparted by his parents, replied, "Everything in my life was taught by my parents, and hence my parents are the earth." Now, let us ponder two essential questions. How can one achieve success in both life and a professional career? How can one make a lasting impact on society and the people they work with? These are questions that deserve deeper understanding. Today, we find ourselves in a fitting setting as we celebrate the second Global Valuation Summit and the 54th Indian Value Congress right here in Mumbai, the business hub of Bharat. In my journey, I made some correct decisions and undoubtedly some incorrect decisions also. Firstly, let us not believe that our learning concludes today. On the contrary, our learning takes a new form starting today. We must choose to become lifelong learners because technology evolves daily and so we do situations. In such dynamic scenarios, applying yesterday's logic to today's problems is ineffective. Instead, we must apply today's logic to tomorrow's challenges. Therefore, continuous renewal and learning are imperative. The definition of literacy no longer rests on the ability to read, write, and speak, but on the ability to unlearn, learn, and relearn. Unlearning alone is insufficient for practical purposes. Learning new skills relevant to today's context and relearning what is crucial for the future are what truly matter. Continuous learning provides a significant edge in our careers. Life presents various assignments and activities, some easy and some difficult. Embrace those tasks that are different and challenging. By choosing challenges, we reduce competition and establish credibility, credentials, and reputation, making a difference even in difficult situations. Take risks in life. Calculated, intelligent risks coupled with strange and tenacity's effect yield rewarding results. Now, important thing, what Mahaperiyava said, ancient scriptures say, Kanaka Irkunum, which translates to be accountable. Being accountable in thought, word, deed, and intent is more intricate than one might think. Every day, we encounter situations where we say many things. How much accountability do we take for our words? What is our say or do ratio? How much of what we say, do what we do, truly accomplish? How accountable are we in our personal and professional career? This brings us to a deeper question. Why do we say what we say? Our words are a reflection of our thoughts. To whom are we accountable for our thoughts? What is our sense of accountability in directing our thoughts toward what truly matters? How do we regulate our thoughts to ensure that we speak only what we mean? And finally, who is accountable for our actions and their consequences? Beyond thought, word, and deed, our sense of accountability extends into our daily lives. We recreate ourselves daily, assimilating experiences to forge a new version of ourselves. We are not who we were a minute ago, a week ago, or a year ago because we are constantly evolving. However, without taking accountability and paying attention to our evolution, we risk serious consequences. Mythological and historical figures like Ravana internalized their learnings to become asuras. We must be attentive and accountable for what we internalize and what we seek to become as we evolve every minute of every day. Returning to our theme, I urge you to take accountability for your thoughts, words, and deeds. In Tamil, I would say, Kanaka Irkanam, pay attention to what your thoughts and be accountable for all aspects of your existence. Success will follow. Now, the important thing, we are here with the blessings of respected P.C. Goyal sir, who is our father, guidance, and bring all of us today to this life. What he has done to this various profession, we should thank him from the bottom of our heart. Now we are taking this journey with 52 branches, more than 33,000 valuers all over the country, and now we are celebrating the global valuation. Why? Why? What is our contribution to the nation, to the economy? As professionals, we should contribute to the maximum possible with the experiences what he has given us previously. I'll tell you, his forethought is excellent. If you write any letter, anything, you will get a reply first. And he will tell us to spend 1 rupee from the institution we should think several times. His forethought is excellent, excellent. That's why we are all here in the presence of, even though he is not here, he's here. We are blessed, and let him bless us also to continue this journey for our life and profession. As I to conclude, I would like to welcome you all again to a summit where expertise converges, ideas flourish, and the future of valuation unfolds. Let's embark on the enriching experience together. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tyagarajan sir. That was absolutely wonderful. And it is always a privilege to hear him out. Loads of years of experience, expertise, and of course, he opens his heart and always talks. So thank you very much once again. And now the felicitation. Of course, Vinay sir के लिए एक बार जोरों की तालियां हो जाए. Honoring him and felicitating him with a shawl. So on this moment, I would request Shri Vinay Goyal ji to share a few words.
Namaskar. Welcome to this Global Valuation Summit 2023. I would like to thank Neelkant Mishra ji, our B. Shankara ji, Arunachalam ji, Vijay Kashyap ji, Sachinder ji, Nick Talbot, and Tyagarajan ji, and other dignitaries, Mr. B. Shankar again from IBBI is there with us, and other dignitaries and valuers. Today's inaugural session is more than just a formal commencement. It signifies the initiation of a collective journey, one that transcends geographical boundaries, embraces diversity, and propels us into the realm of global collaboration in valuation excellence. As we stand at the nexus of insightful discussions and diverse perspectives, let these echoes resonate far beyond these walls, influencing boards, shaping policies, and defining the very essence of valuation profession. The Global Valuation Summit is not merely an event. It stands as a testament to the power of collaboration, a celebration of shared expertise, and a pledge to uphold the highest standards in valuation practices globally. Reflecting on our inaugural summit in 2019, it marked the genesis of a global movement in the field of valuation, particularly focusing on valuation in emerging economies, shifting paradigms. Since then, the valuation narrative has evolved from a mere exercise in number crunching to a strategic tool essential for navigating rapid growth, diverse asset classes, and evolving regulatory landscapes. This year, under the theme Mapping the Momentum and Global Outreach of Valuation Profession, We aim to delve deep into understanding the trends, progress, and impact of the valuation profession within the global context. Our Prime Minister has already envisioned for 2047 India. So valuation has a definitive role towards that we have all of us to keep in our minds. In this regard, the 6 technical sessions we have planned for the event reflects IOV's pursuit of excellence, contributing significantly towards these critical areas. I'm just giving a brief, very brief of this and why we chose those. One is the global recognition of valuation profession. Fruitlessness of an aim can only be achieved when it is shaped, and we aim to do so by initiating International Chamber of Valuers by IOV. This is to unite countries to deliberate, discuss, and exchange knowledge, fostering global collaboration. So that is the one. Then evolution of ESG. Understanding the nuances of ESG and its impact on the valuations, in line with the regulatory disclosures of informations about the sustainability related financial measurements. Understanding the regulatory compliances in valuation. Actively being engaged in suggesting reforms with the government bodies for the spread of valuation profession compliance practices so as to save our fraternity from any untoward happenings. Diversified avenues in valuation, exploring the possibilities in identifiable avenues where distinct expertise is required. So there is an array of our valuation courses ranging from marine to jewelry and all those, where it caters to the valuation profession. And the evolution in valuation standards, which is paramount with the formation of IOV Registered Valuer Foundation's Valuation Standard Advisory Board, chaired by Mr. Subramaniam Pichaiya ji, and its focus on creating compatibility of valuation standards in Indian context being globally viable and being in pace with the advancing and a dynamic nature of valuation, and see to that every practicing valuer becomes aware of those standards. And then the advent of technology in valuation, that is a very vital area now with the advent of AI and other this thing. And IOV, we are proud that IOV and IOV RVF, we are taking advantage of all such technologies for the benefit of our members, is in the form of we recently introduced one Ekta, that is a valuation software. And then for the registered valuers, we have made one software for that is valuers data interface. And then both these organizations have their mobile app through which the members have can connect with us anytime, anywhere. And in the process, now we are soon launching the Valuers e-library, because what we see from our archives, we have almost around 10,000 of articles since the inception of Institution of Valuers, where we publish Indian Valuer. And since then, we have monthly, this is the monthly magazine, it's ISSN, and Our eminent valuers write articles in all those journals. And we have a collection of around 10,000 such articles with us in various asset classes. So that was an idea mooted by the council that why not have an e-library for the sake of everyone to join and uh, have that first hand and of his choice. So we soon launching this valuers e-library, we are going to call it. So the articles and the journals and the publications, whatever the institution is publishing, that those will be lined up in this. As we continue our journey to elevate valuation as a profession, let us set the tone for upcoming generations. Let us collectively resolve to address regulatory framework, development, investment in education and training, advancement of technology, and fostering international collaborations. Uh, from our data, we came to know that the age of valuers in profession has reduced, but it is still, we would like it to still be reduced. Like previously, it was the profession after retirement, mostly. Now the scenario after this valuers rules also, the scenario is like between the age group of 40 to 55, there are now more people. Certainly, it needs to be increased. But at the same time, we would like the younger generations to enter into this field. Without them, the further growth is, looks bleak in the profession. And in India, we have, I think, an edge globally to have a younger generation in. So let us exploit that also. And that is with the aim of providing sustainable, honorable, and useful to the society profession. Our endeavor today should be to become the catalyst for positive change, sparking innovation, fostering connections, and leaving an indelible mark on the global valuation landscape. Together, our collective efforts at the Global Valuation Summit resonate with the G20's vision for a world Vasudev Kutumbakam, where sound valuation practices play a pivotal role in shaping a resilient and prosperous global economy, and a future where valuation is not just a profession but a cornerstone of informed decision making, contributing to the global economic narrative. So let us all pledge today to work for bringing this profession out of the shadows of other professions, where it stands out as the most trustworthy profession for the society. Before closing, let me give a shout out to our committed sponsors, speakers, dignitaries, and all the participants for making this largest valuation event of the world a grand success. Thank you for your support and commitment. Thank you. Thank you.
That was outstanding, Mr. Goel. But before we continue, I would like to say, Jago, Mohan, Preetam, Jago. Mohan, Preetam ke saath, Amit, Ashok, Pradeep, Anil, Sanjeev, sare jaag jao. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, this 2 days Global Valuation Summit will bring so much of value addition to your profession and to your life, you will not believe. But for that, you have to be energized. Okay? So I want that energy that you put every single day in your profession. I want that energy, I want that vibrance, I want that, wavelength out here. So, I'm sure you all set. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have been waiting for launching this amazing souvenir, and this is the time, this is the right time in front of all of you. We are going to be experiencing the launch of this souvenir. I would request all our distinguished dignitaries to please come forward for the launching of the souvenir. And how they're going to be getting the souvenir? All the audience?
No, it will be distributed in the queue.
And the souvenir, it will be distributed inside your kit, all right? So ladies and gentlemen, it is the moment of truth, and let's experience the launching of the souvenir. Can we have a big round of applause, please? Come on everyone! तालियों में कंजूसी नहीं चाहिए। किसी ने सीटी भी मारा क्या? मुंबई वाले बदलना मुश्किल है, मुंबई की वाइब ही कुछ ऐसी है। एक दो सीटी तो निकल ही जाती है इधर उधर से। Right, thank you so much and congratulations. It is an amazing time and moment to experience where we have launched the souvenir, and you will be able to have the souvenir inside your kit. Ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our next guest for his address, I want to tell you that I know valuers are a little serious. You know, it says, more serious you are, you make more money. But the moment we see Ranveer Singh, it doesn't seem so, okay? Now, valuers is completely a different profession altogether. You make the difference every day to people's life, and of course, to your life too. Now, with definitely a certain kind of energy, and of course, with certain kind of, zeal. So I want you to have that zeal also outside. Don't look so serious, because I took 2 hours to do my makeup. And after that, if I really have to see that serious faces, my heart breaks, So at least we all are trying and putting our best effort out here. I believe the event management team did not sleep for at least 3 nights. So for all of you valuers, because you are valued, you're very valuable to all of us. So can we have a big round of applause for yourself? Come on, everyone! Valuers, you're bringing the change to people's life, but तालियों में change बिल्कुल नहीं आ रहा है. I want a bigger round of applause. Come on, you can do better. Yes. Seems like हमारे पिता माता जैसे बोलते थे ना, that अच्छा 80% आया है बेटा, don't worry, next year तो अब 90% लाओगे, करोगे ही करोगे, वैसे ही. So 80% तक ठीक है. We want more. We want 90% and 100% and 110%. And I'm sure the way you're making difference to people's life, 110% is very bare minimum. So ladies and gentlemen, and of course to esteemed valuers, thank you very much for your support, for your love, and of course the constant interest in this profession. Chaliye aage बढ़ते हैं, and now it is absolutely a privilege to invite the dais, none other than Mr. Nilkant Mishra, the Chairperson, Unique Identification Authority of India, to deliver his address. एक बार जोरों की तालियां हो जाए. Come on, everyone.
Thank you for that. Thank you for inviting me to present to such an esteemed audience. An honor to be sharing the stage with such dignitaries. I work as an economist, as an analyst, and I feel a certain sense of brotherhood when I hear of people who do valuation for a living. What we do is also, and what my team does is also we value assets, so these are financial assets. When I was thinking about what to speak about, which can relate research that we do to something that is relevant to you, I thought I would start off with a very important data set. Globally, the value of, or the wealth to GDP ratio went up from 3.7 times
in 2010 to 4.9 times in 2021. You would wonder, why am I quoting this ratio? If you think about wealth, wealth in a way is, or the value of an asset, is the present discounted value of all the future earnings that you can get out of it, right? So that holds true very directly for bonds. It holds true through at least the assumption that dividends and free cash flow will flow through to equity holders. For real estate, it could be the rents that can potentially come in, or imputed rents or implied rents. Or for factories, it could be the income that you can generate out of it. Now, why did the ratio go up? Why should that ratio change at all? So when we think about the business of valuation, the big picture message is that the context in which we do the valuation, the context in which the value is calculated itself can change from time to time. There are two main reasons why these valuation multiples change. So in a way, wealth is the future income, or rather the present discounted value of future incomes. And income is, the GDP is this year's income, right? So why did the ratio go up from 3.7 times to 4.9 times? Why should it change at all? As you can understand, and you are all experts, everyone here I see senior, there is a discount rate and there is a future growth. So if your future growth in incomes or future growth in GDP is faster than what you've seen so far, you will see an increase in the wealth to GDP ratio. Also, if you use a lower discount rate, so what is the interest rate, what is the risk-free rate, what is the cost of capital that you're using, that also has a very strong bearing when you move to this wealth to GDP ratio. Now, what happened, and this is where I will bring in the context of the US economy. In the US, after the global financial crisis, the policy tool or the policy preference that the US had was a tight fiscal, loose monetary stance. So as you know, if you're running the government, if you're in the finance ministry or say in the US Treasury, if you want to manage the economic momentum, there are only two tools available to you. There are fiscal tools and there are monetary tools. So when you use a fiscal tool, basically you have a higher fiscal deficit. What ends up happening is the government spends a lot more and then the economy starts to revive. Once the economy revives, the government dials back the spending. It's a counter-cyclical tool. So the US, and then there's the monetary side, which is that you bring down interest rates, people borrow more. Basically, that is growth borrowed from the future, and that supports the current growth rate. Now, the preference after 2008-9 in the US was that we will have a tight fiscal, loose monetary stance. A loose monetary stance meant that you had the US Federal Reserve saying that we will have 0% interest rates for the foreseeable future. And when that was not sufficient, they also started printing money. So this was what you would have heard as called quantitative easing. So they started buying US government bonds and injecting a large number of dollars in the economy. The US dollar, as you know, is effectively the benchmark against which every other currency is measured, right? Whether that should sustain at that level or not is something we can question and debate, but it is reality. What used to be gold 100 years back, in some ways, not directly, but in some ways, is the US dollar currently. So when US dollars become very freely available, interest rates, you have a certainty. So what we saw in the stock markets, for example, is that 10 years back for the Nifty, which is a very popularly tracked index, the price to earnings ratio was 13 to 14 times on average. Today, everyone assumes that 18 to 20 times is the normal ratio. But since COVID, the policy preference has inverted. So there's been a significant change in the stance of US policymakers. What they have now chosen to do is a loose fiscal, tight monetary stance. Now, when you talk to people in the Biden administration and say, why? I mean, how can you expect to bring down inflation if your fiscal deficit remains so high? The response is that the previous tool, previous recipe didn't work, previous medicine didn't work, and therefore we are trying a new one. So now you have the fiscal deficit in the US expanding very dramatically, and the interest rates also going up, right? So there's a loose fiscal and a tight monetary stance. So the cost of capital that we now model in has to be significantly higher. So just as in all of the previous decade, the PE multiple for the stock markets were steadily rising, my expectation is, and there's something that perhaps would be food for thought for all of you valuing assets, the cost of capital that we take globally for the next decade should be much higher, and that means lower multiples as we go forward. This is, I think, currently being linked to just the level of inflation in the US. The assumption is that US inflation is starting to moderate, and therefore the Fed will start cutting rates, and therefore interest rates, the cost of capital for the rest of the world will also start coming down. Unfortunately, that is not going to be the case in our view. The US is now, and in fact, even the pushing out of the recession in the US and the whole chatter around soft landing, which if you are tracking the global media, financial press, you would have come across, is ignoring the fact that there was almost a 4% increase in the fiscal deficit of the US federal government, and that has supported growth so far. And unless it expands again in the coming fiscal year, the US is very likely to go into recession. Now, when this happens, the dollar availability outside the US is actually going to worsen even more than what is the case today. Just to give you a perspective on how dollar availability affects growth outside the US, take India. In a given year, for most of the last decade, we would get about $80 to $85 billion of capital flows. This was in the form of FDI, this was in the form of portfolio investments, this was in the form of external commercial borrowings, basically Indian corporates taking dollar loans. If you take the last 6 months or the last rolling 12 months, it is becoming increasingly likely that as we think about the future, it is the net capital flows that we should expect in the current global environment would be more like $35–40 billion. So it is going to be very difficult for India to sustain the level of growth that it could have sustained if the capital flows were easy. If you see Indonesia, you see Mexico, they're all having to raise interest rates despite the fact that their own inflation is in check, and this they are doing because they would like to see their currency in a stable position. If you take a look at history, in the last 350 years, whenever we have seen a sustained period of low rates, it has created bubbles. These bubbles are in the form of what we have seen right now, the venture capital and private equity bubble. This results in extraordinarily high levels of risk in credit. This results in high levels of valuation for real estate and various financial assets. And then when for whatever reason, and in this case it is US fiscal profligacy, the interest rates start to go up, you start to see all of these bubbles starting to deflate. If we are lucky, none of them will burst, because a bursting means that we see significant financial instability. We can hope and pray that does not happen, but what is very clear is that there will be some pain going forward. So this is something that I think all of us should keep in mind as we think about the future. When you see the mutual fund disclaimers, past performance is no guarantee for the future. In fact, that is a lesson that all of us who are in the business of valuation need to remember that the steady increase in valuations because of very loose, extraordinarily loose monetary policies in the US and most of Western Europe are not going to be the case in the next 10 years. And therefore, the valuation that we see should be very different. The second aspect is growth. So, is growth going to be better or worse in the next 10 years than we had in the last 10 years? Here, I think there is a divergence in the growth rates that we can expect in the world and the growth rates that we expect in India. In India, we are seeing a resurgence in growth. Most of the last decade was spent digesting or taking care of the excesses of the previous investment cycle. So whereas the rest of the world was going through a real estate bull market, if you recall the last 10 years, at least till between 2012 and 22, the construction of real estate in India was falling. So if you look at the total value of construction of buildings in India, as a percentage of GDP, it shrank by almost 6 percentage points of GDP. And so even as real estate markets in the rest of the world are dipping down, actually in the cases of economies like Germany and China, they're actually weakening substantially. In India, after a 10-year downturn, we are starting to see the real estate market starting to perk up. And as you know, and you all work with real estate in some way or the other, when these cycles turn, they don't turn for 1 or 2 years. Which means that, and this is such a substantial part of our economy, that if the real estate market is really turning up, the overall growth rates in India are also going to be better. Second part of the growth slowdown pre-COVID, if you remember, even the years before COVID, the economy had started to slow down, which is what has driven some of this debate about whether India's sustainable growth rate is 6 or 6.5% in real terms. I think it is still well above 7%, maybe 7.5%. And the second part of that growth slowdown was deleveraging in the corporate sector. And many of you would have seen the surge in insolvency because of IBC, because of mechanisms that the government created to resolve and take care of non-performing loans. So as that was happening, it drove significant deleveraging in the corporate sector. And because of that chronic underinvestment, we are now reaching a stage where we are again running out of power capacity. As construction activity is picking up, we are starting to see cement companies planning for stronger growth. And so this is still early cycle. I would say that in the next 2 to 3 years, some of these investment decisions will start becoming a bit more frantic. And that's when leverage levels start to go up again. So future growth in India is going to be better, in my view, than what we saw in the prior decade. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the rest of the world. So not only is there a problem of geopolitical uncertainty or the fragmentation of global value chains, the trade war, or let's say the Cold War between the US and China, which are the 2 largest economies now, the significant demographic challenges in Japan and Europe. All of these things mean that, and then of course the after effects of a sustained period of very low interest rates which need to be unwound, I think global growth is going to be much weaker. But that should be less of a concern for us as we value is assets which are primarily valued in India. But what you may see, and in fact, if you do get invited to value foreign assets for your clients, you may find that outbound investments from India will start to pick up, that there will be global assets which are much more cheaply available or which are much cheaper than what we see now as bankruptcies surge and growth expectations come down. You will see Indian firms becoming a lot more acquisitive going forward. So these are the 2 important trends that I thought would be of value to you. The fact that all of the last decade we saw sustained low interest rates. This has completely shifted up the anchor for valuation multiples in the real and the financial world. Going forward, all of these will be ratcheted down as the world wakes up to the serious fiscal issues in the US. See, if you have a debt to GDP ratio of 125 to 150%, the only way to solve for that is to get your central bank to start printing money, which means sustained high inflation and therefore sustained high rates for the US dollar. Just for perspective, Australian banks today, AA rated banks are borrowing at 12.5%. So this is not good for growth anywhere in the world. The second, of course, is that the Indian growth story, I think, and especially if you maintain macroeconomic discipline, I think the domestic rate structure should be a bit more healthier, and our growth forecast should be quite more positive. So on that count, I hope these 2 points were useful to you. I'm just checking if I missed out something. I have not. So on that, I wish you the very best for this conference. It is the largest conference, as I said, in the world, and it's been a privilege for me to be invited to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mishra. That was a guest of honor, of course. Can we have a big round of applause for him, please? And also, I would request VR Mr. P.K. Tyagarajan and VR Mr. Vinay Goel to please honor him with a shawl. And of course, with a memento. I think सिर्फ नाम ही काफी है. We all know नीलकंठ, शिव जी, देवादिदेव महादेव. इन्होंने बैलेंस करने के लिए विष पान कर लिया था. और नीलकंठ सर यहाँ पर आके whatever he has spoken about, it seemed like he exactly knows how to balance between profession, work, and how exactly things should go. And that is what he has portrayed. Thank you very much, sir, for wonderful insights. All right, thank you very much. I would request all our dignitaries to be seated. And Mr. Mishra is really running out of schedule. So thank you very much, sir, for gracing this prestigious occasion. And thank you very much. I think we'll have to excuse him for today. And now it is absolutely a privilege to invite the next speaker here in the dais, Mr. Sachinder Linder, the MD and CEO, Aavas Financiers Limited. And can we have a big round of applause? And I would request him to deliver his address.
Good morning, everybody. It's a privilege and honor to address such a dignitaries and the dais, people on the dais, as well as people on the valuation side. I think it's always important that what do we value? So I think valuation is whether it is life, whether it is profession, whether it is anything. I think everything which boils down to final thing is what is the value actually. So I think it's pertinent whether it is personal life, professional life, whether assets, tangible, intangible. I think it is a very important facet of all factors. Thanks for the time, thanks for the privilege, and I wish you all the best for the conference. I will dwell upon the sector which I come from and how is it relevant from a valuation perspective. Just to give you one of the perspectives, I come from Aavas Financials, which is a listed housing finance company. And we are basically into tier 3, tier 5 towns. And when we talk about mortgage to GDP ratios, typically there's one of the big indicators. I think currently India is at around 10%. If you exclude the tier 1 and tier 2 towns, and if you talk about tier 3 and tier 5 towns, it comes down to 2.5% as a ratio. So I think that very big macro indicator which reflects the kind of headroom which is available in India, which is Bharat actually, which is going to really spur the momentum of growth. And if you compare it with the developed countries, most of them you'll find in excess of 50%. So I'm talking about one data set, which is tier 1, which is at 10%, and tier 2, tier 3, which is basically less than 2 and 2.5%. So the overall size of 27 lakh crore kind of mortgage book, the major potential in the coming days lies on the tier 3 to tier 5 towns. That's the biggest chunk as far as housing for all, or the mantra for Prime Minister for housing for all, or roti kapda makan ke andar makan ek important part hai, and really to finance that, to value that is one of the critical asset, and we are poised as one of the HFCs to really cater to that. We serve about 350 branches across 13 states, having underwritten more than 5 lakh plus of customer base, and with an average ticket size of 11 to 12 lakhs. That's one data set. The second is very important, which propels Indian economy at the Bharat stage, is the micro MSME. So if one data set which is very important for us, all of us to really dwell upon, 30% is the GDP contribution of the micro MSMEs to the overall one, whereas the bank credit is only 6%. So wherein there lies a big gap when it comes to the cash flows which are required for this segment. Again, that is also in tier 3 to tier 5 towns. So I think these are the two basic sets which gives Bharat a very big fillip when it comes to this segment. And wherein, how is it relevant to the valuation? I think, how do you in those sectors and those segments really go across valuing the assets? That's one part. Second part is, which is very important at this period of time, is how much are we cognizant of the fact that we are ESG compliant, which is environment, society and governance. I think that's another part which is there. And what at Aavas we've done is, you have everybody role models, you have all models, technical models, valuation models, or green models, if I were to put across, all laid out in tier 1 towns. So these are models. If I have to certify a building green, you will find EDGE certification, you will have various other facets which are there, but these are for multi-dwelling units. The classic case with us came across along with a study with the IFC, a part of World Bank, as how do you certify a self-construction individual house as green. Now this is globally never done anywhere across. What are the valuation parameters you will take? How do you really value across? I think we did a 2.5 year study with them, and we came across with a model, and we're the first one globally along with the IFC to come across with a model which says how really to certify a self-construction home as green. And therein it started with 3 basic parameters, which is energy, material and water. We took a baseline case of the existing energy, material and water consumption, and individually sequential reduction of 20% of all the baseline of energy, material and water would really classify as a greenhouse. So this is one of the leading ones as far as the sector is concerned, as far as Aavas is concerned, as far as India is. So we launched that paper and it is open for the Indian industry. And what really helps across is developing a model at that ecosystem, which is at the ground level and which is where actual Bharat lies. So if you look at mortgage, if you look at housing, other than if you leave the tier 1 towns, you have people who want to build houses and they are built on self-construction basis. And how really to make that different, and we are working across with them to develop an ecosystem which will really propel. So it starts with the very base of how do you really create awareness at that level. Green is a buzzword which is more prevalent in the tier 1 towns or people of that strata. But how do you really go to the second tier or tier 3, tier 5 towns to create the awareness? Once the awareness is created, how do you really create interest? How do you then really convert that into action? A very simple case is to really convince the last customer saying that you need to use not a red brick, but a fly ash brick. The challenge starts from there. The challenge starts from the thought process. So we, along with IFCs, worked across that, how to really mitigate that, how to really manage that, and how to really prosper across that. So that's one of the pieces where we made a good amount of progress, and we want the other industry leaders along with us on the HFC side to make an impact. And I think that, as you would really appreciate, the most of the pollution, the most of the environment sensitivity comes across from construction, whether it is industrial construction and whether it is construction which is there on the residential space. Now when it comes to valuation, why is so much this being harped upon, why it is important? But globally, whenever you look at funds, when you look at your parameterization on valuation, I think ESG parameter plays a very important role. I think your score on ESG as companies plays a very important role. In that, what are the kind of assets which you have actually financed and how much they are green? And it has come to a level where they are talking about how much it is carbon neutral. So you have classic developments of places like Gift City, which is basically pure green or carbon neutral. I am talking about tier 3 to tier 5 towns, how to make it environmentally green and how to make that happen. And that becomes a very important role. And wherein what I talk about is how do you really take that as a perspective in a micro level, at a ground level in the 2,500 towns, in the cities, in the towns and the villages that we operate and Real Bharat operates. So I think it becomes very important from a ESG perspective. And I think what I really dwell upon is how much is what we've done on the valuation stuff, how much is that, how do you really inculcate and facilitate ESG is one of the parameters when it comes to valuing an asset actually. I think that is of prime importance. It goes through a lot of change. And I think as institute, I think it's important to really work on that and build on those models which really help on the individual side, on the industrial side, on the micro MSME side, or on the assets which you try to really put a valuation back. I think that becomes a very important role. The second and which is very important part which we really dwell upon as a tech-led company, how does AI actually play a role? One is how is AI playing a role, and second is the kind of data warehouse or data lake which you create based on the properties which you value. How do you really use a generative AI? So I think that most of the use cases which you see is most on the consumer tech companies or you find in the fintech companies, but you really find too less on either the financial services or on the valuation side. I think that is one area which I think will have a big leapfrog when it comes to the new age kind of technology. And we will be there with Bain Capital to really understand how it really makes a difference where you have a proper data warehouse, how does major properties valued at lat long, or giving a view that if this is the property, what is the generative kind of output which is there, where you have use cases which is either chat GPT or others which are there on the other sides. But how do you really make that impactful when it comes to using valuation as tool? And since you valued properties across so many years, so many facets, so many geographies, and again, India gives a very, very different and very unified experience because every 100 meters or 100 kilometers, the real estate laws change, the type of property change, the demography changes. So how do you really inculcate that? I think that's one area which all of us as facilitators to the industry, as valuation should really work across. So you had a lot of data sets which came across either in the form of CIBIL or CRIF, which we used to say about the individual's credit rating. But rarely do we find anything which is on the credit rating on the property side. I think that's another area which is one of the areas which we would like to see as mortgage financials to have developed. And valuation part really takes a very important parcel of the entire thing. And why we say so? Because when it comes to the business of mortgage, it is ultimately the property. And if the property is valued right, it is valued in a perspective which really returns when it is required to be possessed or wants to be liquidated, is to have the right kind of value acclimatized to that fashion. So I think from a perspective of the sector which I represent, I think it gives a plethora of events. And secondly is an academia and industry interface for really to look at the way digital, the way AI, way generative AI, and way everything is changing. I think that's another piece which I would really look at the institute to work very actively with the industry partners. And typically, how do you really get that back into our foray and help us to propel further? So with that, I think I wish all the best to you on the various facets which you're going to discuss. It is one of the very important areas which we feel which India is poised. And as we move across in the rural Bharat, it gives a lot of opportunity, both from a perspective of the mortgage side, from a perspective of industry development, from a perspective of various facets. And I think the landscape on that is changing very fast. So how do we really acclimatize to that? How do we adapt? And how do we really use the new generation AI tools, the new generation digital tools, the new generation cloud computing, the new generation frontiers, really to make our profession and the profession of the valuers really impactful. And that's what we would like to see from you guys, and would like to associate and understand from the industry as how impactful we make. So we wish you all the very best, and thanks for this opportunity, and God bless. Thanks.
That was amazing, Mr. Sachinder Binder. Can we have a big round of applause? And also, I would request our valuer, Mr. P.K. Tyagarajan, Vinay sir, and of course, Mr. Jaden, to please come forward and felicitate with a memento and shawl. I would request also Mr. Binder to please come forward. So the center stage is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite our next honorable special guest, Ms. Dr. Anil Kashyap, the first president and chancellor NICMAR University, to deliver his address.
Dignitaries on the dais, and all the participants of this exciting event. And I'm really delighted to be here and pleased to have such a special welcome of NICMAR University, along with its students and the faculty sitting in the audience here. And I was thinking before I accepted the invite which was extended by our good friend, Mr. Sunil Agarwal, to be part of this prestigious event. This is one of the largest one. And I was the first one to jump on it and say, look, who else be better than a built environment University of India to be partnering as well as presenting, having a special presence here and sharing some of the future linkages and partnerships, how industry and academia can help propagate this profession. And some of these messages really resonates what we are thinking about. And I didn't know that Mr. Vinay Goyal in his welcome touched upon reducing the age of valuation professionals. And that can only be done by the skilling and intervention of university, where we bring valuation as a tool and a skill and introduce at the university level, where 25-year-old become valuer and be part of your community. And I'm also linking to Mr. Mishra's comments as well about India's growth story. As we all know, if I can have the slides changed, please. If you all know that almost 70% of India is yet to be built. and the assets need to be yet to be created. And these assets can be movable or immovable assets. Also, India is poised to be the third largest economy by 2030, and the population as well, which will be a huge asset for the country to take the economy forward, in which real estate industry is going to be having a 12-fold contribution what we are today. This is the huge jump in terms of overall real estate industry size in next 15 years or so we are talking about. There is a robust demand in various real estate asset classes, and some of the reports which are recently coming talking about new asset classes and uses like data centers and high-end residentials and the buoyancy of the market. It is going to be an exciting time for everybody. The investments are flowing in, and if you look at the foreign direct investment, our industry, which is real estate, construction, infrastructure, is almost the second highest industry in attracting the foreign direct investments. From the government point of view, there are number of growth drivers, and these growth drivers are in terms of these mega infrastructure projects. And again, these are linked to asset creation, movable, immovable, and also linking to the right kind of skill set, not only in valuation, but in other allied areas as well. And this leads to further sectoral demand outlook, where I would particularly highlight that construction management, construction sector, real estate sector, infrastructure sector, all together is again the second highest employment provider in the country after agriculture. And some startling facts that out of 71 million people working in construction, real estate, infrastructure sector, 81% are unskilled and only 19% are skilled professional, which lends us to believe that there is a huge task ahead to bring those 81%, the large chunk, into the fold of skilled professionals. And there are a number of areas in built environment, and as a university, we are trying to tackle that through various interventions. But I think being the largest body here for valuation professional, and I could see one of the brochure that there are almost 15 types of valuation, including the art valuation and the plant and machinery, other than the real estate property valuation. There are so many profiles and skill sets that could be introduced through educational institutions and at least expand the footprint of our presence, your presence into the industry, and also help reducing the age by early interventions. As NICMAR University, we have been in place for last 40 years, started small from Mumbai. All good projects, they start from a garage, and it also started from Walchand terraces, from the basement, the stilt parking, and it's still some presence over there. but has grown manifold with multiple campuses. We have got a campus in Pune, and we have, this is the sort of growth journey here. We have campus in Pune, campus in Hyderabad, looking for expansion in NCR, and in other places as well, in Mumbai for executive education. It is not about the expansion of a university as a business, but it is a service to the industry. And if you look at the composition of our board, it's a public trust, and which is represented by the top infrastructure companies, and not led and governed and guided by individuals. We have got visionary leaders with us who actually guide, and they work for the upliftment of built environment profession, the construction and infrastructure sector. Pedagogy-wise, international outlook as well as interventions have helped us to establish one of the largest postgraduate program in construction management in the entire world. So, in order to come up with a formal education, it was necessitated in 2022 that we come up under the aegis of some formal structure of a university, and Maharashtra government had approved and passed the act to establish Pune campus as a university. So now we can deliver formal education programs from undergrad to postgrad to PhDs. And that also is one of the unique things. You have seen education in agriculture universities, in law universities, and I'm really proud to say that our university is into built environment, and we call ourselves as a built environment university, which is so closely linked to the agenda of this gathering here. And that's where, bit of a introduction about us, who we are and how we can get connected is helpful. Our values are set really at high level, and the vision is to be a global university to promote sustainability, embrace enterprising values, produce industry-ready professionals for responsible built environment. This is sort of our vision, which is set up in terms of what we do. If you look at our strategy, it is so integrative that number of things which are necessary for a well-rounded professional experience on a campus is interwoven through these pillars of strategy in terms of teaching, research, enterprise, employability, people and culture, and the place, the campus. And that provides this holistic experience in terms of what we intend to do and what we propose in the future as well. The core values lies into excellence, ambition, collaborative, inclusive, and enterprise. These domains are there, as I said, teaching, executive education, research, and publications. And if we look at the composition, you will find, and pardon me for not having a program specifically directed to valuation, but something has been done in the programs in advanced construction management as well as real estate management, where our graduates get exposure to valuation, which is mainly property valuation. But there is so much scope to introduce new courses, new collaborative methods, and new experience through the field trips, visits, or even sharing knowledge which is there valuable on the ground, which we may not find in the books. And that's where we want, and that's where I am here to ask and request IOV that how actually we can partner. We have got fantastic placement record over last many years, and almost 100% of our graduates get employment before even they write their final exam. And many companies, many industries in not only the construction infrastructure, but other businesses as well are really interested in our graduate, which actually tells us that something we are doing right and we want to do more. So some of the key takeaway from my talk here is that we need more and more skilled workforce in real estate, construction, property sector. Valuation skill is very important. However, it is lacking a structured teaching approach. And as a university, I am really coming forward to all the leaders here that how we can help, how we can work together. Institutions like NICMAR are best placed to address this gap. And partnership is key for such agendas. And I'm really looking forward to speak with colleagues here, speak with the esteemed guests and passionate valuers. I have seen a couple of them in the last evening dinner, and I'm really happy and inviting you to come and visit Pune campus or Hyderabad campus. Please do come and please do engage. I will be really welcoming you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you all.
Well, that was brilliant, Dr. Anil Kashyap, First President and Chancellor, NICMAR University. And to felicitate him with a shawl and of course with a memento, I would once again request Mr. P.K. Tyagarajan, Vinay sir, and of course Mr. V.S. Jaden to come forward and honor him with a memento. Can we have a big round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen? और मैं बता दूं, मैं पीछे से देख रही हूँ, जो ताली नहीं बजाएंगे उनको पनिशमेंट दिया जाएगा बाद में. So ताली बजते रहना चाहिए. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is such a pleasure to invite now in the dais to deliver his address, Shri B. Sankar, the Deputy Managing Director, State Bank of India.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, the most important, the delegates of senior valuers, the ocean of them sitting in front of me, a very good morning. At the outset, I am thankful to the Institution of Valuers for inviting me to address the second Global Valuation Summit on the occasion of the 54th Indian Valuation Congress. I am representing State Bank of India and the other bankers here. And you all know about the bank, and we all know that there is a strong bonding between the valuers and the bankers. I wish that bonding continues. In fact, I take one sentence from the RJ, that is, you all are adding value to the lives. Yes, the valuers are adding value to the lives, especially when valuation becomes critical. Valuation becomes critical when some mishap happens, when calamity happens, when the lives depend on the valuation and the insurance. Valuation becomes an absolute necessity and very, very important, adding value to the lives when an asset is deteriorating. When a project which has come up with a lot of fanfare and dreams unfortunately goes down because of various internal as well as external factors, and then they depend on how to make the unit survive, adding value to the economy. Here comes the importance of valuers. Now here I would put forth the perspective, the lender's perspective of valuation. From the perspective of resolution and recovery of stressed assets, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has been formed. It has been introduced in 2016, you all know. And since then, the IBC played an appreciable role in resolution of stressed loan accounts. Issues notwithstanding, the timelines of resolution have been set. It's not that timelines were not set earlier, but here timelines have become stringent. Why? Because it's not only recovery which is important, it is how to add back to the economy the brought back value from the enterprises. Whether it is for the purpose of taking new exposure or for resolution of assets, accurate valuation is a must. On one hand, it helps in determining the extent of finance, and on the other, it impacts the possibilities of recovery, the actual value from the asset. Here I would like to acknowledge the contribution of Valuers Fraternity to the banking sector as quite significant. Now, there are so many areas where valuation is happening, you contribute, like NCLT at the time of CIRP and at the time of liquidation, whether it is during auctions under SURFACI Act, the properties are valued, or mergers and demergers, the enterprises are valued, acquisitions, amalgamations, or if somebody wants to attract a strategic investor, they look forward to you. The family disputes, when there is a family dispute or settlement issue that comes up, it's a question of valuation of the property, or settlement between amongst partners or promoters, or finally insurance. Even at the time of insurance, valuation, surveying are essentials. Now, as a lender, I wish to, I'm given around 10 minutes, I'll try to stick to the time. As a lender, I want to share my suggestions and my views on the valuation so that we can create further bonding and we can both together, the bankers, the lenders and the valuers together can make the most of the value addition to the economy. Generally, the main concerns, as I expressed or two for any banker. One is the market value, fair value, realizable value at the time of financing. It should be accurately assessed. And there should not be any superficial inflated value than the reasonable value. Why? Because any asset is financed by the banker, keeping into consideration, keeping into view his contribution to by way of margin. If the asset is overvalued, then indirectly we would be helping 100% finance, wherein the stakes of the purchaser will not be there. Stakes of the borrower will not be there. Then the seriousness with which the project is launched will be absent. The second is the fair value, liquidation value at the time of resolution or liquidation of stressed assets. Here the asset should not be, the valuation should not be lower. That is, the asset should not be undervalued. They should follow, they should be done as per the valuation standards. Now it is appreciated that banks carry higher risk of dealing with public money by lending more amounts based on the inflated value. At the same time, recovering lesser value also would be detrimental to the interests of the public whose funds are involved. While valuing assets of the borrower or guarantor, it's important that the valuers work with proper scope of work, which you all do. Clear identification of the assets, use of appropriate information and data inputs, and selecting suitable valuation method, which differs from project to project. The purpose of valuation affecting the value should be in consideration. For example, same property valued during the same period fetches different valuation for different purposes. For example, if I have to lend against this particular property, the valuation will be different. If I have to sell this property, adjacent property, the same one, it will be different. So such valuations affecting the value of the property should be avoided. Now the valuation methodology. In IBC it is generally observed that valuation is done giving a distress sale situation. However, in IBC also there are so many situations or scenarios like selling a unit as a going concern, liquidation sale, sale on a piecemeal basis, distress sale. Anything is possible. Our endeavor should be selling the unit as a going concern, keeping the economy in view. Why should we withdraw an income generating asset from the economy and cause damage to it by more than 50% than the one expected or projected at the time of financing? Because it is operating at the same level. Even intangibles are added, brand value is added, future is not gloomy. So it should be almost not, it cannot be on par. With the tag of NPA, the valuation should not be affected negatively. The valuation should be objective, taking into consideration only the assets available, the sales, the activity going on. That is one of my requests as a lender. Now, variation in valuation reports. Appropriate valuation standards, if followed, this variation can be curtailed. Now, in case of assessing enterprise value of a defaulting borrowers, using income approach through discounted cash flow method, projected financial information is required that we will not get. It's very difficult to get when the unit is in stress, because naturally cooperation will be at low levels. Then how to go about? An endeavor should be made to at least prepare the projected financials for the going concerns by taking into consideration your experience with the other similar units. Valuers identify existence of economic obsolescence and adjust the same to the estimated depreciated replacement cost. We all know that. It is suggested now, like it's only a suggestion, that details of such economic obsolescence and assumptions and their quantification should be discussed with bank's relationship team, because they have been privy to the inspections, regular inspections, when the unit was doing well, even after the unit stopped functioning at that level. So when you tie up with the bank's team, relationship team, the valuation will be more realistic. Then our common purpose of adding back value to the economy by releasing more and more from the economy, from the distressed assets, will be possible. Now, lastly, in many cases, although the borrower is insolvent or non-performing, the brand remains. It maintains its value in the market. And the entity will be using many licenses, permits, which if we sell separately will fetch a lot of value. But piecemeal basis sale will be detrimental to the overall enterprise value. But if brand value and the limits and permits owned by the unit are added or taken into consideration, then the enterprise value, the fair market value of the enterprise also can be substantially high. Now, comparing enterprise value, the fair market value for CIRP and the liquidation value, I have a view that how can a liquidation value be so low compared to the fair market value? Liquidation value is not selling at a scrap. Fair market value, it's like surface auction. When we put up an asset for sale, if no bidders are available at that valuation, we declare it as a failed attempt of auction, reduce the price by 10 to 15%, make it more accessible to many, affordable to many, and go ahead with a second auction. Now, in this case, when the CIRP, when there is no expression of interest that is received once or twice, the RP declares that the CIRP efforts are failed and it has to go into liquidation. The liquidation has to be logically a few percentage points lower than the fair market value. How can it be 20% to the fair market value? Just think of it. There has to be some correlation. As on liquidation also, under PIRP, first the IRP has to sell it as a going concern. Attempt will be made. If that fails, then it goes under piecemeal sale. That too fails, then scrap sale. We all are aware, you are all more experienced in dealing with this right from 2000, almost 17, 18. because 16 the code came, but after that 2-3 years later it started in a big way and it has been highly successful. IBBI's general manager is sitting here. The contribution of IBBI has been immense. Really a wonderful work done by all of us together, and your contribution to this whole exercise has been significantly high. Summing up, I suggest that it's imperative to enhance the effectiveness, reliability, and usefulness of the valuation process. For the purpose, I would also think that we should follow the governance, proper governance. I wish all the best to you all for a very bright future because the scope is immense, and I congratulate the organizers for arranging this summit, and I congratulate all of you for attending this in huge numbers. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was brilliant, Mr. B. Sankar, and I would also request our special guests to dignitaries to felicitate him with the flower bouquet, memento and shawl. I would request Madhu sir also to join. Vinay Goyal ji and Tyagarajan sir and Jaden sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is such a privilege to invite once again another guest of honor here at the dais to deliver his address, Mr. R. Arunachalam, the President, Institute of Actuaries of India. Can we have a big round of applause, please?
President, Institute of Valuation Profession, Sri Tyagarajan ji. Secretary, Sri Vinay Goyal ji. Chairman of IOV Mumbai branch, Sri Jaden ji. CEO International Valuation Standard Council, Sri Nick Telbar ji. Sri Nilkant Mishra ji, the chairperson of the UIDAA, is left, but nevertheless, I know my wishes for him as well. Vice Chancellor, Techno University, Dr. Gautam Sen Gupta ji, who could not attend today, but I wish him as well. MD and CEO of Avas Financial ji, Mr. Sachinder Binder ji, he had also left. My wishes to him as well. The first President and Chancellor, Nikmar University, Dr. Anil Kashyap ji. Deputy MD, State Bank of India, Sri B. Sankar ji. My dear distinguished speakers and guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm so impressed with the speeches that have been delivered so far with the dignitaries. I feel so humble and honored to be here with such a panel. Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me over here on behalf of the actuarial profession. The chairman mentioned about, in his speech, Mahaperiva, and he said about Kanakka Irkanum. I just wanted to refer that. In Kanakka in Tamil means, in a way, it's a value. It's how you value something. So when I actually started thinking about what should I speak at this session for you. I need to add value, right? I need to, at the end of the day, add value to all of you in a way. So the values actually start from self. So we are all actually having some value in ourselves, right? The way the others look at us. The value is derived from our thinking, our words, our actions, right? We don't have a measure of the value. We don't have a numeric measure of the value, but then there is a value, a perceived value. The others look at us. If we do right things, then they value us much better than the others, isn't it? But this value keeps on changing. It's not going to be a static one. It's going to be dynamic. It changes as the experience goes, as what we do or what we speak or what we do, what we think and what we act. So in a way, there is a lot of connect between values, value system, responsibility, and valuation. I thought I should thank the chairman for bringing this up. Coming back to Mishraji's speech, I'm so honored to be here to hear that. I mean, he talked about the interest rates and the discounts and how the values vis-a-vis the GDP have changed. If I just look at and expand or interpolate for the Indian context, 4 times GDP is the wealth, is what he mentioned. It should be roughly about 14, 15 trillion in that sense, isn't it? So if there is an asset, so if all wealth are assets, then we have a 14 trillion value of assets that need to be valued. And who would value that? We, right? So when I say about asset, there is an equivalence of liabilities as well, and that is where we come from. So I hope, I'm not sure how many of you know actuarial profession as a profession. We are a profession set up by an act of parliament. Our profession is called Institute of Actuaries of India, the professional body, and the profession is called actuaries. And most of our work revolves around valuing the liabilities. Yeah, liabilities is fine. For example, if it is a asset, say a bond valuation, we can look at the cash flows, the discounted, and then arrive at a value, present value, a discounted cash flow valuation, and say this is the value of the asset as on today. But for us, it's slightly more complex. Complex in the sense, we value promises. So how? I mean, I say tomorrow I will do something. What is the value of that? It's quite complex in a way how you value the promise. What if the promise is not kept? What if the promise is somewhere kept, but then, halfway through only? Now, there are multiple layers to the promises, some of it is kept. So that's where we are, and that's when the probabilities of something happening or somehow whether the promises will be met comes into play. So that's how we do our valuation. That's the concept of insurance. So insurance is a promise. The insurance companies take money from the customers with a promise that they will pay back when something happens. And what is the value of that promise is what we do. I would not dwell deep further. I know it'll get into complexity in terms of cash flows and probabilities. But just coming back to our original discussion point of creating value. The asset is there and for which we value, or a liability is there which is what we are valuing. But that has to be created at some point, right? From where it is created, that is more important. So when we do valuation, and when I mentioned the value keeps on changing at every point of time, it's quite dynamic. And at the start, there is no value for something. And then when you start creating it, it's slowly kind of getting created and kind of increases in its value. So there is a value actually associated with time. At every time there is a value. And hence, the value that we calculate today, how it relates to the value that will be there tomorrow or the next month or the next year is very important. And there is a connect, and that connect has to be understood, and that connect has to be appreciated, and that connect has to be reconciled. If we do that, I'm sure our values would be to the point and would also add value to the users or the businesses. That's a general statement, I would say. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritties of financial assets, non-financial assets. I mean, what are the cash flows? How do we value those cash flows? But for all of this, there are two important things that we look at for any valuation. One is a fact. The second one is a judgment. Fact could be anything. Fact could be an information that we know today. It could be a data that had happened over the past. It could be even the data, for example, we do a real estate valuation. It could be the data of the market prices in that particular area or geography. That's a fact or an information. It could be, most of it could be numeric or quantitative, but some of it could even be non-numeric. But we will have to understand that. The second part is the judgment. This is a very critical area and where it has to connect to our value system, in my own view. Judgment is about assumptions, right? How I decide something, I judge this is what will happen in the future. Say the rents would be these amounts in the future. Whether that will be, whether that will not be, why that will be, it's more a judgment. Of course, the judgment would be based on a lot of rationale, lot of your old thoughts, experiences, past data. But then it's finally a judgment that you make of the future. It's not a fact. And this judgment have to actually work out. If it doesn't work out, then the value that you have arrived at today would not materialize. For example, if I say I have valued a property with a, say, annual rent of 2 crores, then if the actual, and it comes to say 10 crores of rupees, and if somebody buys that property, and if the actual rent is only 1 crore, then you would not derive the value out of it. And so the 10 crore value that you created and told him would not stand in jest, and then, when you go and meet him the next day or the next time, I mean, he would feel that you have not added value. And hence, there has to be a connect between the judgment of, or the assumptions with your values. And hence, the standards are important. And that's what, when Goelji mentioned, we will have to have standards. Standards are quite important. Unless we have standards, we don't have a commonality. Judgments can be so extreme between two different individuals. I mean, we are so different in our thoughts, and that's why we are humans. And hence, if we have common standards, that will help us grow the profession in a significant way. Coming back to the theme of this conference, which revolves around momentum, I just wanted to touch a bit of highlight on that. But before that, I just thought, let's look at where we are at a macro level. We talked a bit about micro, in a sense, about our own individuals, assumptions, data, and how we do the valuation. Let's look at the macro picture a bit. I'm not talking about Asia, but let's look at India. I mean, we have had our speakers mentioned already earlier about the sweet spot we are in, or the Amrit Kal, as our finance minister and as our prime minister, have envisioned. We are in a Amrit Kal, we are in a sweet spot. The world is looking at us. The world is looking at us for their growth. We will grow for sure, but they are looking at us for them to survive this recession and grow forward. Why? We have so many advantages. Look at our population. We are leading now in terms of the numbers. Look at our demographics. Our demographics is so nicely structured that we have one of the best demography in terms of age benefit. There are a lot of younger people over at this point of time in the age, say 20 to 45 or 20 to 30. The middle class is expanding. The per capita income is increasing, right? There are more vehicles on the road. We are good in logic, we are good in mathematics, we are good in computing. Our industry in terms of banking, agriculture, and health is one of the biggest in the world. We are going to grow significantly in the next decade. The growth is going to be both investment-led as well as consumption-led. If I look at how we have transformed over the last 2 decades, vis-a-vis advanced economies, 20 years back, our growth multiple vis-a-vis the advanced economy is about 2.2. Currently, it is around 3.3. And it is expected to grow to 5+ in the next decade. It's not that. It's not over with that. We work with a lot of data, and now the world is so connected. It's a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's a one family. Everything is so connected. Today we have 500+ million mobile subscribers or the internet subscribers. We have cheaper phones. We have the cheapest data available in the world. Our financial literacy is so high. I mean, people in the rural sectors, they operate Google Pay. What does this mean? This means that we are going to have a lot of information, data, and facts, which we can rely on in deciding what we can do. But then we will have to also ensure that whatever we see, it's like reading something in the newspaper, right? We have to ensure that we cannot take it on face value. We still have to do our own research and find out whether it is valid enough for us to carry. Right, we are growing. We have become tech savvy. We have more information, more data, more facts, isn't it? All fine now. Why should we worry? But no. we have risks, we have evolving risks. Starting with geopolitical risk, because of the conflicts between nations, I don't want to mention. We had the pandemic, we had crisis in terms of petrol or diesel across the countries due to the geopolitical risk. And because of that, we had contagion risks in terms of inflation, in terms of prices, in terms of commodity availability, in terms of interest rates. We have now cyber risk because of the connectivity. We have energy risks. We have talked about ESG. Sooner or later, people say water and air also is going to be risky because we have started now buying water, right? I think the air quality is going less somewhere in the north, and we have difficulties in managing all of this, and there is a lot of risk, and the risk is evolving. Yesterday, one of my friend called me, and I'm an actuary, I'm more a mathematician and a financial guy. I don't like science much, and in my school days, I was very poor in science. And this friend of mine is my classmate, and he calls me and he tells me, I don't know, Arun, you have become a chemical engineer. I said, what? I mean, all of it's science and chemistry. I didn't like his thought, but he told me a reason. I was so amazed. He said, earlier you were dealing with risks which were to a large extent solid in nature, but now the risks after some time started flowing from one state to another, like a liquid. But today it is transforming, it is everywhere. It's like become a gaseous state. I never know that you have become a chemical engineer. I didn't like it, but I was so amazed. People have become innovative that way. So the risk is everywhere. I mean, risk is like the air, and we should be aware of that. And in our valuation, we will have to ensure that the risks are captured. And how do we capture those risks? The risks are captured through probability or the mathematical models or the actuarial techniques. I'm sure in the valuation standards as well, they would prescribe a lot of techniques. So ESG valuation is quite important that way. The technology, the risks in terms of the ESG and the standards, I would see as one of the key important themes or points that you should look at and work around in the going months or years. I was talking to the chairman and he was mentioning about the developments. I'm so happy and it's grown to such a large organization, and that would have been not possible without such efforts from the team and the chairman and the council members and the secretary and all of you as well, jointly putting it together. But there's a long way to go further. That's what he mentioned to me. And the journey is also important as to the destination. The destination is important, but the journey is more important. But we should enjoy the journey as well. But as we enjoy the journey, we should also do things which are right. And in doing those things, we need to build momentum. And that's the theme, and I'm happy about that. Momentum in terms of the examination, momentums in terms of partnership with the universities, momentum in terms of the standards. It should be both examination and standards and also research. The connect with industry and the connect with academia have to be maintained and have to be transformed in a way that it's a same body or a same theme together. It's all a fine balance. It's all a fine balance between doing the right and somewhere doing things which are more beneficial for me than for the other person. I just hope that as a profession of valuers, and we also do a lot of valuation more from the liability side, we do right things. With this, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to the IOV for providing me this opportunity. It's a great honor, and I'm so humbled to be around with the senior dignitaries and with all of you here. I thank from the bottom of my heart, and also on behalf of my profession, to the Institution of Valuers. I wish the IOV and this conclave, the second one, much more to come, sir. I know it will be soon double digit, and I wish to come over here for the 20th or 25th conclave as well. I wish this a very huge success, and looking forward to the interactions and engagements further. Thank you so much.
And once again, I would request Tyagarajan sir, Vinay sir, and Jaden sir to felicitate him, of course, with a shawl and memento. And there's a very special shawl. It is a shawl from the temple of Lord Ranganathan Swami. This is a special shawl, has been brought by Vinay sir for all our distinguished VIP dignitaries. It has been brought by Tyagarajan sir. And whenever Tyagarajan sir brings something, it is always auspicious and has a brilliant value. Can I request Madhu sir also to join? I really wanted to ask Tyagarajan sir, sir, आप क्या खाते हैं? Why do you have so much of energy? We get so motivated looking at you. किसने कहा इडली? आप क्या खाते हो? चलिए, all bhai bhai, huh? All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, of course, it is a privilege right now to invite Mr. Nick Tabot, the IVSC CEO, for the PC Goel Memorial Lecture. PC Goel Memorial Lecture in the year 1968. Late Shri PC Goel was the founder of IOV and called as the father of valuation. And of course, in his memory, it is his time. Thank you so much. तालियों में कंजूसी बिल्कुल नहीं चाहिए. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good, good. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I said to her, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that I would be invited to speak in Mumbai, the Hollywood of Asia? And she looked at me, and she said, you're not in my wildest dreams. But it's a real pleasure to be here. And thank you to the distinguished panel for inviting me. I was talking to Mr. Goel Jr. last night, and he was telling me a little bit about his father. And I can understand the journey a little bit in terms of what he had to do across India to help move forward the valuation profession and create it so long ago. As I and others try and do this around the world, but it's so much easier for us. Because one of the challenges that he had no email, no mobile phones. It was difficult to even phone from one state to another. So the challenge that he had was just truly, truly immense. And so congratulations to him, and it's good to see you. I'm sure he'd be proud of the work you're continuing. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about momentum in terms of global valuation. I usually, when I'm in India, I usually start off with a picture of cricket, but I thought that it might be a little bit too soon following the recent results in terms of India or Australia, so I'm not going to talk about cricket. Football. When I think about standards in the world, probably the best used global standard is actually football. Who's the best football team in the world? Argentina, Brazil. Okay, I'm glad no one said Man United or anything like that. But the question is, how do you know? And you know whether your team, whether it's Argentina, Brazil, whoever, is winning or losing because everyone understands the rules of football. It's the same everywhere. But imagine a world where every country created its own football approach or cricket approach. It would be impossible to know what's happening, who is winning. I mean, yeah, the Americans have their own football approach, but I'll ignore that for now. But imagine a world where every country created its own valuation approach. And actually, that's pretty much what happened. And so when we talk to investors, which we do a lot, what they want is one simple approach. They want to have confidence in the valuations you provide. They want to know that a valuation in India is consistent with one in Argentina or Brazil or wherever. And so they really want that simplicity. They don't want to have to understand 195 different approaches to valuation. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, my team was called Newcastle. I used to think they were called Newcastle Zero, because every time I heard them on the radio or television, it'd be Newcastle 0, Manchester 5, Newcastle 0, Liverpool 4. But I'm hoping we're getting to a better point with that. So IVSC has a really simple mission. We want to have international valuation standards in place across all asset classes, used everywhere in the world. But we also need to encourage good professionalism. So actually, organizations like the IOV are essential, because we can bring together international expertise, including from India, to define the valuation standards, but we're not going to understand your context. We're not going to understand Indian law, tax law, the approaches that you have for things like that. So having that education and professionalism, the quality of it in every country, is really important to us. I'm going to give some examples of momentum. The Board of Trustees is something that we have worked to improve the stature of. That is essentially the board that oversees IVSC. We have 2 former finance ministers, we have former regulators, we have other global leaders on it. And that's really important in terms of giving credibility to your profession. I'll make a comment on the standards boards, because actually India is doing really well. So anyone in the world can apply to be on our standards boards. And we want to take the best ideas from wherever they are in the world. We have Indian representation on the Tangible Assets Board, the Financial Instruments Board, and most recently on the Business Valuation Board. So actually the input from an Indian perspective in terms of helping enhance and improve the global approach to valuation is very strong. We have board members from around 40 different countries. You know about our standards, and I know that Nicholas will be talking a little bit about changes to those later, so I won't dwell on those. We're lucky to have around 120 leading experts from around the world, and we're also focusing on thought leadership. And this is really important, and when we think about momentum of the valuation profession, sometimes other standard setters, such as the IFRS Foundation or others, have standards that are going to impact our world. And so we put out thought leadership, whether it's on ESG or goodwill, which was a topic. And some of this thought leadership now gets downloaded tens of thousands of times. And some of the other global standard setters or regional standard setters are using our thought leadership to influence their standards and their debate. So the voice of the valuation profession is growing. Just trying to get this clicker to work. Change, I mean, we heard about this earlier, change is constant. We had COVID, we had inflation, automated valuation, is AI going to take over the world? ESG, which I'll talk a little bit about later. Change is so fast in my country, England, that when I get on a plane in the morning, I don't know who will be Prime Minister when I get off the plane in the afternoon. I'm sure you like our Prime Minister now, though. But it's, you know, we believe that technology develops, and actually we believe that from a profession point of view, as long as a professional valuer understands the tools that they're using, then actually that's fine. That can be part of the valuation, but you need the judgment of people like yourselves. That's crucial for something to be a valuation. When I was in Australia, I was talking about AI with some rural valuers, and people were talking about how it's taking over the world, and he came up to me and said, I don't understand how AI is taking over the world. He said, what's artificial insemination got to do with valuation? But these things, you know, everyone's scared of new technology, but humans advance, and we believe that some of these technologies can help you as valuers. When I think about the pace of change, we're going through a really fast pace of change at the moment, and your role as valuers is hugely important, because in times of change, investors really want to know more about the value of their assets. They really want to have a better understanding, so your role has never been more critical. When I think about change, I often think of New York in the 1900s. This is a really interesting picture, all horses and carts. One of the most expensive pieces of real estate in New York in 1900 was stables, because you needed somewhere to keep the horses that were used for transport of goods and people. But the interesting thing in this picture, which shows an element of change, is there's one motor car. And then when you look forward to 1913, it shows the pace of how technology can change things. And what I like about this picture is the contrast. There's one horse and cart in it. And I think we're in a period of change at the moment which is equally fast. When we think about assets now, in 1970s, intangibles were worth approximately 17% of the S&P 500. Anyone want to guess what they're worth now? More. Okay, that's a succinct answer, Bill, and it's correct. It's around 85% is estimated. So actually, the role of the valuer in understanding and helping investors understand different asset classes has become more important. So if you look at Ford and GM, they're worth in the 60s to billions. Tesla was worth around a trillion. It's now, that's slightly out of date because Elon Musk has had a bad couple of months, so I think it's maybe 900 billion. But it makes less than a quarter of the number of cars that GM and Ford do. So what is that difference? Are people interpreting the value of the intangibles correctly or not? The insight of the value is paramount. WeWork, which filed for bankruptcy recently, it was supposed to float for around 48 billion in the US. It ended up being worth around 8 billion, or perceived as such by SoftBank. But again, investors need to rely on valuers to have a better understanding of the assets. The truth is that with WeWork, the assets were mainly real estate. It wasn't a Tesla or an Uber. And so providing that understanding is really, really important. And so the role of the valuers is very important. So when we're thinking about global momentum evaluation, we think about the stakeholders that we need to engage with on your behalf. And so, for example, in India this week, we met with a SEBI member, we met with the chair of SBI, we've met with other key people. But on a global level, what does a profession need for respect? You need regulatory support. And so actually, we have an agreement with IOSCO, which brings together many of the top regulatory leaders in the world, and we're working closely together on valuation. And if you think about doctors, lawyers, accountants, actually regulation is always there in their world, and that respect is important. And it's good to see that India has taken steps forward in that regard. United Nations. The United Nations are looking at a project in terms of how do you give confidence to investors and banks in intellectual property and intangible valuations? Because banks want to lend, but they don't yet have the confidence in order to do that. So we're working with organizations like that as to how do you have a good enough profession and standards to give that confidence to the financial sector. If you think about investors, it's really important that we talk to investors. And when we're thinking about global momentum, this is something that we focused on. We now have valuation leaders from the top sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, private equity funds in the world. The assets that they have under management are in the region of $21 trillion. And actually helping these people understand why they should go to professional valuers such as yourselves and input to our standards is really important. Investment banks, we have a forum of the top investment banks in the world. We're really pleased to have opened an IVSC Asia office. Unfortunately, we don't yet have one in India, but it's really been great to have Nicholas here from a Singapore perspective. And so we're looking to give Asia a greater voice, and it's really important that India is a key part of that. When I think about other changes that are coming up, which will hopefully have momentum, financial instruments, we've got a new section on that. We're going to talk about ESG this afternoon. I think that has a really important opportunity for you as the valuation profession, and we'll talk about that later. But we intend to continue to engage with influential stakeholders around the world on your behalf, because we believe that the importance of the valuation profession has never been greater, and that at the moment, in the same way that there's critical momentum in India around the economy and change, we believe that globally there is critical momentum around the valuation profession. And we want to get to a point where international valuation standards are used everywhere, and you have a requirement to use qualified professionals everywhere in the world for valuations. I know that we're stuck for time, so I'm going to cut off there, but we will talk more about the ESG side this afternoon. Thank you.
That was absolutely amazing. Global Valuation Summit. Of course, the theme for this program and summit is mapping and momentum and global outreach of valuation profession. And I believe it was amazingly delivered by Nick. And now we're going to be felicitating him, of course. Tyagarajan sir, Vinay sir, Madhu sir, and of course, we have along with us Jaden sir. But Nick, you broke my heart. Did you say your wife told you something? You know, handsome men never claim that they're married in public. Mrs. Tabot sounds so intriguing, you know. I'm not talking about myself, I'm only talking about your wife only. But thank you so much, that was absolutely brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we have been waiting for a long, long time for all the awardees. It is the time to deliver the awards. I would request Mr. B. Sankar, Mr. R. Arunachalam, Dr. Anil Kashyap, Vinay sir, Mr. Tabot, and of course, Jaden sir, to please come forward. And now I would like to invite awardees one by one. PC Goel Lifetime Achievement Award goes to none other than Dr. Ashok Nain. He is holding an MSc from the Illinois Institute of Technology, USA, and distinguished PhD, brings forth a wealth of 40 years of extensive experience as both an engineer and a valuer. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you our first awardee, Dr. Ashok Nain. The next award in the list is PC Goel Academician Award. The next award in the list is PC Goel Academician Award. And the award goes to Valuer Nitin Lele. Valuer Nitin Lele is a full-time practicing government registered valuer with over 39 years of experience of civil engineering and property market, and participated in over 100 income tax raids and 500 assessments and CBI cases. My goodness, we got to be very, very careful. I wanted to ask Nitin sir. I wanted to ask Mr. Lele, and that I am planning to, come to Mumbai and start acting. तो actors के घर में raid तो नहीं करते आप? Everyone, come on. See, now you understand my language. Thank you. We have been an outstanding audience, ladies and gentlemen. The next award on the list is Valuers Excellence Award, instituted by S. Deshpande. The next award on the list is Valuers Excellent Award, instituted by S. Deshpande. Valuer Ravindra D. Deshpande. He is an architect and registered valuer with IBPI Wealth Tax, and also holds membership of Institution of Valuers. He was full-time lecturer at Padma Shri Dr. D.Y. Patil College of Architecture at Nerul, Navi Mumbai. Zoro ki taaliyan ho jaye, ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Valuer Ravindra D. Deshpande. It is of Chennai has instituted an award on topic of valuation of real properties or any other topic as council may decide unanimously amongst the best article published in the Indian Valuer during a year. And the award goes to Valuer Kirit P. Budhbati. Valuer Budhbati has introduced the first course in the discipline of real estate in India, along with the first course in the world relating to plant and machinery at Sardar Patel University, Vallabh Vidyanagar, and distance learning course in real estate, first distance learning course in India at Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Presenting to you, Valuer Kirit P. Buddhubhatti. Ladies and gentlemen, our next award is Best Informative Article. And the award goes to Valuer Krishnendu Prasad Ray. And unfortunately, Mr. Krishnendu Prasad Ray is not here, so we will move on to our next award. The award is Best Qualitative Case Studies in all classes of assets. And the award goes to Valuer Mahindra S. Patil. He is an engineer and valuer. He is active in civil engineering consulting profession from 1996 and started practicing as structural engineer and real estate valuer. His firm Spacemakers, a design unit of engineers, architects and environmentalists, is now involved in building design projects in hospitality and sustainable architecture. Ladies and gentlemen, Valuer Mahendra Patil. The next award in the category is Best Article on Valuation or Related Subject. And the award goes to Valuer Bhupendra Pratap Singh. He is a chief valuer at Mortgage Valuation Experts. He was a visiting associate professor at the Institute of Chartered Accountants in India for their course on valuation for chartered accountants. He has also been appointed to the panel of experts of the Honorable High Court of Delhi to examine complex real estate projects. Presenting to you, Valuer Bhupendra Pratap Singh, ladies and gentlemen. And the next, but not the least of course, the Best Article on Tech Enablement. And the award goes to Mr. Abhishek Tiwari. Article titled Digitizations of Mortgage Industries. Its risk assessment and need of digital enables. Published in the year 2023 in the month of October, Indian Valuer Journal at page number 57. And all right, congratulations to all the award winners. And I would now like to tell you that we are going to be taking a break. During the break, you can collect your kit from the registration desk. You'll be able to collect all your kits one by one from the registration counter. And also, I would request Agalya to bring all the posters on the Agalya.
Branches. No, it's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I said we're going to be having a break, but not now. Please be seated. We will continue with the award, and after the award, we'll be having the break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now it is for overall performance of the branch during November 2022 and October 2023. I would request everyone to please be seated. And the award category is for the best performance. It goes to Hyderabad branch. Valuer T. Madhu, and the secretary is Valuer K. Chiranjeevi. कोई नहीं सर, मैं देख लूँगी. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll not take any break. We'll not take any break, but meanwhile, just to cut the monotone, we'll have the canvas display in front of you. You'll actually have a brilliant idea about the entire session that we've been through now. And we have a brilliant lady who has designed and drew this amazing, layers of valuation and, of course, the sessions that we have gone through. Agalya, I would request her creation to be on the stage. And along with that, I would like to invite VS Jaden to deliver the vote of thanks. That is brilliant, Agalya. An amazing creation. From the morning, whatever the insights we have got all in the canvas. Amazingly created and for better understanding, for sure. Also, if you'd like to have a closer look, it'll all be displayed at the backstage.